Hi guys, I'm Dan Martin and it's on education, and today we are talking about why teachers are quitting, and to do so we're going to look at the first annual Merrimack College Teacher Survey that was conducted in 2022. This survey is an extension of the MetLife survey that's been going on for years and years, and so they've just renamed the survey and a different group is doing it. So let's take a look at it. And of course, here I'm saying the MetLife survey continued really. The Merrimack College Teacher Survey was of 1,324 of the nation's teachers. It was conducted between January 9th and February 23rd, 2022, and has a margin of error of plus or minus 3% with a 95% confidence level. And let's look at some of the results. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of summarize the main topics of the survey. It's a really interesting survey. It goes into a lot of detail about the responses having to do with demographics and political affiliation and areas of the country and so forth. And so if you are perhaps a principal or a district superintendent, you might want to look at these results and get a feel of what your teachers are really thinking. So it says here at first glance, the results of the survey don't necessarily appear to be alarming. 56% of the teachers surveyed say they are somewhat or very satisfied with their jobs. But when they looked deeper into the data, they saw that the percentage of very satisfied teachers has decreased over time. In 2012, they said there were 39% of the teachers saying that they were very satisfied. And this was down from 62% of those same teachers in 2018 or 2008 saying the same thing. So it went down quite a bit. 62% saying they were very satisfied in 2008, and only 39% saying that they were very satisfied in 2012. And now in 2020, the percent of teachers that say they are very satisfied is only 12%. And of course, that was taken probably right in the middle of the pandemic, and certainly that might be a cause of great concern for teachers during that time, and providing a lot more stress and a lot more challenges that have to be overcome. Satisfaction by age and service. Let's take a look at that. And the first thing I want to read is the bottom of the slide here. It said the most dissatisfied teachers were Generation X at 45%, saying that they were very dissatisfied, following by millennials at 40%. And so the younger generations seem to be struggling more than established teachers. And I think back to my teaching career about how my first years of teaching were very, very hard. You have to get established. You have to understand the dynamics of the school that you're teaching in, things like classroom management and disciplining students, and really understanding how to present content in a way that students can absorb and retain it, hopefully, is very, very difficult. And so I don't think that that's surprising. And I think probably a confounding effect of there being increasing demands on teachers and then teaching during the pandemic and all that might have caused teachers to maybe rate their level of satisfaction lower than they normally would. But certainly the first few years of teaching, and when you're a young teacher, is considerably more challenging than after you get your feet under you a little bit. It says here the demographic profile of the least satisfied teachers differs from that of the most satisfied peers. Statistically, very satisfied teachers are more likely to be males, baby boomers, and elementary school educators with 20 years of experience. The profile of the least satisfied teacher is of a millennial middle school teacher with 3 to 9 years of experience. And I'm not laughing at that. I'm just thinking back of the time that I was going through the teaching program and getting my teaching certificate, and I observed in middle school. And man, I thought that that is a very, very tough job. Middle school students are dealing with all sorts of issues related to their hormones changing and them becoming young adults. And so I don't think that that's surprising at all. Unsurprisingly, dissatisfied teachers have a very different perception of their jobs than do highly satisfied teachers. They say they perceive lower levels of autonomy, professional support, and respect. They work longer hours and more likely to say that their salaries are unfair for the amount of work that they do. More than half say that they're very likely to leave the profession in the next 2 years, as compared to 11% of their very satisfied counterparts. Okay, so that's concerning. The increase is in the workload. The increased expectations are causing a lot of stress, and for these young folks, over half of them leaving the profession or thinking they're going to leave the profession in the next few years is very alarming indeed. Respect. Okay, so a consistent finding in research is that teachers' job satisfaction is linked to their sense of being respected. In the 2011 MetLife survey, for example, 77% of teachers perceived that their communities treated them as professional, and 59% were very satisfied with their jobs. It is therefore worrying that in the Merrimack College teacher survey found that only 46% of teachers feeling that the general public respected them as professionals. And so you see here a big drop from 77% in 2011 to 46% feeling respected in 2022. And I think that there are a lot of different things working here, and these are just opinions of mine, and certainly not supported by data. But the reluctance for teachers to go back into the classroom or to try to hold students out of the classroom during the pandemic. I think the parents were ready for kids to be back in school, and there was some reluctance of teachers to go back and to teach. And I have to be careful here that you separate the teachers out from the teachers' unions. And I think in areas where the unions were very, very strong, they were able to support the viewpoint that it was dangerous for teachers to go back and teach their kids. And so you had that kind of perception going on, and it may have not been true for the whole country. I know in our area, we went to a hybrid schedule where we decreased the number of kids in the classroom and by alternating the schedule. So you'd have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday you would go, and the next week if you went Tuesday, Thursday, you'd go Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And so they would decrease the number of students. They were masked up and separated as much as possible in the classrooms. And some of the teachers were dissatisfied with that, but I think the majority of the teachers were satisfied. In areas of the state, Kentucky, where the teachers' unions were stronger, they just stayed out of school and did it all virtually. And so you have a difference of approaches depending on whether your school was unionized or not. In our area, we don't have enough teachers that have joined KEA to have collective bargaining for our salaries and our working conditions. And so, take that as it might, as it may. The kids were in school, and the union didn't have as much of an influence here. So So this perception of respect and the anger that teachers are feeling somewhat is due to the role of unions, I think, in our profession. Shelter from the storms, where teachers turn for support. This was interesting. Given the low levels of respect most teachers say they get from general public, and some teachers say they also encounter at school, where do educators turn for support? Considering that so many feel that they and their profession are under siege, it is perhaps unsurprising that teachers are more likely to seek support from one another. They are relatively less likely to seek support from administrators. Okay, so I think this is an alarming part of the survey, especially for those in educational leadership. You have teachers that don't feel like that they're supported by their principal and their superintendent. And so I think you need to work hard to make sure that the teachers know that those leadership positions are behind you, and that you're supported by everybody at your school. I know, and I think this is true of any job. The most important relationship you have is with your coworkers, and if you're seeking support from your coworkers, that environment is very conducive to productivity, and people are pulling together and working as a team, and then the team leader should be able to piggyback off of that and be seen as a very supportive role model. So be that as it may, a lot of people don't feel that they're getting support anywhere but from their colleagues. That's concerning. Okay, so this was really interesting. It said that they surveyed teachers about educational issues, and then they said, which of these issues needs to be emphasized more and which needs to be maybe emphasized less. So some educational issues always seem to be in the news. Other educational issues never seem to be in the news at all, but should. Which of these issues deserves more attention? So they surveyed the teachers about these issues and asked them which ones that they think needs more attention. For the survey, teachers were asked whether they thought that 7 timely topics were getting too much or too little or just the right amount of media attention. Overall, the majority of teachers say 5 of the 7 topics deserve more attention. Teacher working conditions, school funding, student mental health, student disruptive learning, and educational inequities related to poverty and race. They are split when it comes to the amount of attention paid to teaching about race and racism in standardized testing. Okay, so I'm going to break out the political dynamics of this, and I thought it was interesting. More Democratic Party members said that race is an important topic versus Republicans, although the percent difference was less from urban Democratic versus Republican voters. And so the whole topic of race and racism seemed to be more important to teach that among or to emphasize those topics in education. The Democratic Party members thought that that was more important and less so for the Republican voters. The gap was, still the Democratic voters thought it was more important than the Republican voters in urban areas, but the gap was less in those areas. The trend toward in testing concerns were that the Democrats thought that testing concerns or discussing testing was more important than the Republican voters. All right, so that was very interesting indeed. Political affiliation of the teachers surveyed. And this was not surprising to me at all. 54% of the teachers were affiliated with the Democratic Party or voted Democratic. 30% were Republican. 9% a third party, and 6% didn't vote. So I thought that those were not surprising at all, especially since if you look at union activity and teachers' unions, they are really seen as being a third arm of the Democratic Party. And I think that that causes a lot of problems in our area of Kentucky. Strong Republican party affiliation here now. And so the teachers in the area, a lot of them don't want to support the teachers union because it's seen as just a Democratic arm of the Democratic Party. So take that as it might be. It has advantages and disadvantages. I think the perception of the teachers here is better because we didn't keep the kids out of school. But it's frustrating because we don't have collective bargaining for salaries and for working conditions. And our working conditions and our salaries are less attractive than in the bigger cities in the state where the teachers unions have collective bargaining. So there you go. Salaries. The most recent data available from 2021. That year, the average teacher salary was $65,090, the equivalent of a 0.88% increase in constant dollars over the prior 10 years. In the meantime, the share of teachers who say their salary is fair has declined by 9 percentage points, or 26%. Currently, 26% of teachers strongly or slightly agree that their salaries are fair for work they do, according to the Merrimack College survey. So essentially the salaries are flat, less than 1% increase in the previous year. When you have 8% inflation, and so this is terrible. I was surprised that the average teacher salary was $65,000. But we're going to see it varies drastically from state to state and from region to region, and then even sometimes within states it differs. I mentioned in our state, areas like that are around Louisville and Lexington, the teacher salaries are substantially higher than the rest of the state. Salary satisfaction rates vary by region is the next topic here. Like salaries themselves, salary satisfaction rates vary by region. They are highest among the teachers in the western United States, 35%, which is dominated by California, home to the second highest teacher salary in the nation at $82,746. They are nearly the same in the Northeast, where it's 32%, home to New York, which has the highest average teacher salary of $85,479. Salary satisfaction rates are the lowest in the South and Southern and Midwestern United States, where 21% of the teachers say their pay is fair for the work they do. The South and Midwest are home to the states that have the nation's lowest three average teacher salaries. Mississippi at $45,105, West Virginia $47,681, and South Dakota. I'm not sure what the South Dakota number is because my picture here is covering it, but it is low indeed, in that mid-40s range as well. And so, you have a wide variety of teacher salaries, and we find that the Northeast and the far west have the highest, and then the lowest salaries are in Mississippi, West Virginia, South Dakota. I think it would be interesting to see the teacher salaries normalized by living expense. I know that, for example, cost of living is a lot higher in New York City than it is in Bowling Green, Kentucky, for example, and so it'd be interesting to see what the salaries are in terms of cost of living, but also if you look at the flat rate of increase over time, and certainly inflation in particular now is super high. And so if you're not keeping up with the cost of living, you're losing money, and the profession is becoming less and less attractive as a result.
Guys, sorry to interrupt, but I got an important question for you. Do you have a special skill or talent that you need to share with the world? Maybe you're an excellent photographer, or maybe you're an excellent woodworker, or crafter, or cook. There are any number of things that people do every day and really enjoy and do well that they need to share with others. And so let the good people at Teachable lead you through the process of designing your own online course. It's really enjoyable, plus you can make some extra money, and I've included a link down below. Maybe your special talent is commenting on videos and blogs. And so there is a place called Paid Online Writing Jobs. And I've included a post down below where you can make money per hour reviewing and writing for others. And so this is a real cool site as well. Maybe you got that back to school blues and you're dreading going out to the stores to buy school supplies for your students. And I'm going to encourage you this year to do a lot of your shopping online. One thing, you don't have to buy from depleted store shelves. You can always pick exactly what you want and find exactly what you need. And so I'll provide a Walmart link down below where you can go and shop for your school supplies. Now, when you click on an affiliate link of mine, it won't ever cost you anything extra, but I'll get a small percentage of the sale that will help me create more content for you. So hopefully you're enjoying the podcast, and we'll get right back to it. Thanks.
Male versus female pay. There was a slight difference. Males made more money than females. It wasn't a terrible difference. It wasn't a super high wide gap. They mentioned that there's more opportunities for males to coach, for example, in the high school level. That certainly has been the case for a while, although with Title IX, even with the increased importance placed on women's athletics and opportunities, I think that gap is decreasing. So let's read what they say. As in the case with most professions, men earn more than women in teaching. One reason may be that they are concentrated at the secondary level, where pay is somewhat higher and there are more opportunities to earn stipends for additional work, such as coaching. However, while female secondary teachers are more likely than female elementary teachers to say their pay is fair, they are less likely than male secondary teachers to say they're earning what they deserve for the work that they do. And so here we're seeing that there is some level of dissatisfaction and perception, if not reality, that females are making less than males in their profession while essentially doing the same task. I do think that there is here, there are far more females teaching than males, and there are very few males teaching at the elementary school level. And so males at the secondary level have more opportunities for stipends, and so that might be part of the reason for the discrepancies. Autonomy. Okay, so this is a very interesting topic. How autonomous you feel in your classroom, how you feel like you have the ability to make decisions as a professional and to lead your classroom and to decide what goes on there. So they say here, autonomy is a key indicator of job satisfaction, with employees experiencing high levels of morale and low turnover rates when they have more control over their work environments. By several measures, teachers express fairly strong rates of autonomy, with the majority of survey respondents reporting that they have a lot of control and influence over teaching pedagogy, their students' classroom behavior, and the way they assess their students. and resources and supplies they need for instruction. Okay, so however, they express concern over limited control of their schedule. And it's really important here, and this is my 2 cents too, is it's important to note that that this question was not about pedagogy. It was about pedagogy, or how to teach, but not about the content. And so, you know, in my 20 years of teaching, I taught high school chemistry. There were several initiatives that came through that I kind of disagreed with in terms of the content, and somewhat pedagogy related too. The first thing was that there was a push to have high performing high school students take chemistry their 9th grade year, and I thought that that was probably a mistake. Not that the students were not academically equipped to take the chemistry course, but there's more than academics and you know, the ability to do the work. There also has to do with the social aspect of it, the organizational aspect, and just being in high school. I thought it was a lot to handle for a freshman in high school to come in and take a really difficult course. And what I noticed was that a lot of the, you know, there were some girls that had trouble, but a lot of the little boys, the organizational aspect of keeping up with a strenuous course was overwhelming, and they needed a little bit more time to mature and to develop their organizational skills. And so eventually they gave that up and went back to making chemistry a sophomore level class. The other thing that came through was something called core. You know, they were emphasizing core content, and that there was an initiative to have the same core content across the nation. And this was an interesting thing. I was really excited about it because it was very organized, and it was very evident what they wanted us to teach. You know, it was all spelled out pretty good, and it was challenging, and so I was pretty excited about that, and I got all geared up to do it. And some of it I thought was, you know, probably a little bit too challenging for my students, but I thought, well, if this is where we're going, you know, we can work hard with our kids and get them up to speed and tackle this content and get it going. And maybe 2 or 3 years later, they just kind of abandoned that, said that wasn't a good idea. And then they put forth what they call the next generation science standards. And those were not as exciting for me because they were very vague, and they were more skill-based, and they were really hard to get your hands around exactly what you're supposed to do to have your students meet these goals and these aspirations of what they wanted students to be able to do. So, and I don't know, I think that's still hanging around, and so that was another thing. And it's almost like no matter what is started in education, they never give it enough time to really see if it works before the next great idea comes along. And so that was my level of dissatisfaction with what we were teaching. And so it's one of those things where you know, you have people, I'm not saying always, but a lot of times you have people that haven't been in the classroom for years making decisions about what you teach. And in my opinion, they should listen more to the teachers and get more input before they make decisions. Another thing that our school district tried was to have standardized testing a class across courses. And so you would have a standard English exam for every unit that you were teaching, or a standard chemistry exam, or a standard physics exam across all the schools in the district. And that I thought was, had potential of being a good idea to try to standardize the instruction and making sure all the kids got the same content. But the problem was that the company that they hired to do the testing wasn't very good, and I found lots of mistakes on the on the answer keys to the exams, and they didn't give us enough time to make multiple versions of the exams. The company didn't do that, and so of course, with high school students, they never cheat, and so you had students that had the exams, and pretty soon it was a big old mess, and so they had to abandon that in certain areas as well. So, but anyway, a lot of things to have to deal with as a teacher, a lot of problems, and the content area is certainly a challenge to keep up with all the new exciting trends in academics, but also to be able to do it in a very, very smart way. How teachers spend their time. All right, this is one of the things that shocked me a lot when I first started teaching. I have an agricultural research background, so I worked in ag research for 12 years before I started teaching chemistry, and I thought that I would spend the majority of my time helping kids, tutoring them, going over lectures, putting together labs. I thought that that would be the majority of my day, but then I found out that there was a lot of time spent doing administrative tasks. And so let's see what they say here. With limited control over the schedule, the typical teacher in the Merrimack College Teacher Survey works 54 hours a week. Just under half of the time, 25 hours is spent directly teaching students. Overall, most teachers wish they could spend more time on activities directly relating to teaching, preparation, and instruction, and less time on more peripheral activities, administrative work and non-teaching student interactions such as supervision, mentoring, counseling, career guidance, hall and lunchroom, and dismissal duty. Okay, and so on average, 54 hours a week on your profession, and 25 hours spent directly instructing students. And so this is not surprising to me. I think it may be surprising to the public that that so little time is spent on direct instruction. But it's all part of it, and it's important to monitor students and student behavior everywhere in the building. I know that when my mom first started teaching, she taught third grade, and she started off teaching in a trailer, and she had 31 third graders in a trailer. She said sometimes as much as 34. When she got there, they gave her a box of chalk and a little container of, about an inch thick of construction paper and some scissors, and that's all the supplies she got for the year. She had to monitor her students during lunch, so she ate lunch with her students. If she had to go to the restroom, it was really tough because she was in a trailer outside of the building, regular school building, and she had a hard time getting another adult to watch her kids for a few minutes while she ran to the restroom. So, this is one of the things that has improved over time. Teachers have better working conditions now. Still, a lot of them report that they spend a lot of their own money on school supplies, which is shocking considering the amount of money that we spend in our nation on education. We spend more money than most of the industrialized countries. And so, these things we need to work on and try to do better. Okay, so this was another topic here. And the question was, is teaching being deprofessionalized? So the sense that too much time is spent on work that is peripheral to instruction, combined with the reality that most teachers say they lack control over their time, and nearly half, 43%, say they lack control over the curriculum they teach, raises concerns about some respondents that teaching is being deprofessionalized, i.e. converted to a job like a cashier or a warehouse worker where employees have limited control over their work. And so, I mentioned some of the things that I found to be frustrating in the last slide. And I think now, part of this might be that parents and community members are now more aware of what's going on in the school, and there's been some questioning of it, and some of it has been along political lines as well. And so, I still think that most teachers feel like teaching is a profession and it's not a job, but I do think that that we're headed in a dangerous direction when we over politicize our schools and put so much pressure on teachers to interject social policies and that sort of thing. And I know people would disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I understand both sides of the issue, and I think that we need to have a rational, non-emotional discussion of these topics where people can have differences of opinion and still respect each other. So take that what it may be. Let's go on. Okay, let's close out here with a discussion about the future of education and about the retention of teachers. Okay, so let's look at what the surveys brought out. It says in 2011, 29% of teachers who participated in the MetLife survey of American teachers said they were very likely to leave the profession to pursue a different occupation. In the current survey, that share had nearly doubled to 44% of teachers. Overall, in 2022, 20% of teachers say they are very likely to leave. I guess another 24% said that they were fairly likely to leave the profession, while nearly the same share, 21%, say they're not likely at all to do so. So, it's I'm hoping that that's just because of the challenges of the pandemic, and we'll get back to more of a normal state and people will be more satisfied, but I'm really worried about it. An important caveat is that even when teachers respond to surveys by saying they are likely to leave their jobs, they do not necessarily do so due to financial constraints and other considerations. Prior to the pandemic, about 8% of teachers left the profession annually, although there's no comprehensive national data available on attrition rates. So that is really, really, really disappointing that the Department of Education is so inept that they aren't able to do any research on that. So, and of course, that's my opinion. You may have a difference of opinion about that, but I think that is super sad. I look at this, the younger teachers being very dissatisfied, and some 44% of them saying that they're going to leave in the next 2 years, and the high attrition rate that we already know occurs, that most of them leave the profession within the first 5 years, is very concerning. I know that our school district here in Warren County is giving retention bonuses to teachers, paying them a stipend to let them know that they appreciate them and they want to see them back again next year. And so that's a step in the right direction. Just the money is a symbol of appreciation. It may not be enough to make a whole big difference in somebody's life, but it's something that say we value you, we care about you, we want you to continue the good work that you're doing. Teaching it's not easy. The perception of teachers, I think, is distorted by the sensationalism of certain types of stories in the news, and it's also made more difficult when the perception of teachers is dominated by the teachers' unions that don't represent the majority of the teachers in the country. So that's my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth, and certainly be kind. But if you disagree, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. I'd like to hear from parents. How do you perceive your public school? What do you think of your superintendent, your administrators in your schools? What kind of job are they doing? And more importantly, how can you help to improve your school that your child goes to? So a lot to think about. I've enjoyed putting this together and researching it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too. We'll continue to talk about these issues and hopefully make a difference. Peace.